Does Mr. Vance love me today? Newly wedded into a wealthy family, my husband tossed a divorce agreement across the table. We'll divorce in 10 months, Julian Vance declared, his voice as cold and sharp as the tailored suit he wore. Just 3 months into this arranged marriage of convenience, my husband arrived at my office during lunchtime, bearing a thermos of chicken soup. In front of my colleagues, he made a startlingly public announcement. Who dares bully my wife? 5 months in, the aloof CEO seemed to transform into a doting husband, a man utterly captivated by his wife, fussing over me with a tenderness I hadn't expected. But then his white moonlight, the woman he truly loved, returned. I got married, but the groom didn't love me. His home was a mansion in the city center. He drove a Bentley. I lived far beyond the 5th Ring Road, commuting by electric scooter. Mr. Vance preferred women who were quiet, elegant, and impeccably composed. I, on the other hand, once spent half an hour arguing passionately with a shop owner over a pair of jeans, finally securing them for 80 kwai after a spitting-mad negotiation. Julian wore clothes based on his mood, rarely repeating an outfit. My shoes were held together with tape, and my faded blue shirt, washed white, was still too precious to discard. Julian's friends described me as radiating an aura of poverty. Standing next to him, they said, we looked like a prince and his carriage-driving maid. On our wedding day, countless beautiful women must have despaired, lamenting that such a prize was claimed by a pig, referring to me. But fate, or perhaps just sheer drunken coincidence, intervened. Both of us had just gone through heartbreaking breakups. Julian's heartbreak was due to being pressured into marriage by his family. Coincidentally, so was mine. Brandon Hayes, my long-term boyfriend at the time, refused to marry me. He felt he was in the prime of his youth, eager to play around for a few more years. My disposition, fundamentally like that of a cautious quail, craved stability. His words left me deeply dejected. When he asked for my recent salary, I hesitated for a moment. Brandon immediately frowned, visibly annoyed. Didn't we agree you'd save your salary for me, as our future startup capital? My eyes welled up. But if we're not getting married, what's the point of saving? I asked tentatively. What about the money I've already given you? There should be 50,000 saved by now, right? Brandon scoffed, a dismissive smile twisting his lips. Your meager salary? 50,000? It's long gone. It was laughable, really. I had been pinching pennies, even forgoing 100 kwai skincare products, all for a future with this man. It turned out he was just stringing me along, and worse, he was complaining I hadn't given him enough. Clutching my phone, a fresh salary of 6,000 RMB deposited, I felt a surge of shaky courage. Fighting back tears, I asked Brandon to leave. He shot me a disdainful glance. You're so ugly when you cry. Can't you ever try to look decent? That was it. The dam broke. I stood up, my body trembling with fury, and pushed him out the door. I cursed that scumbag for a solid 30 minutes, tears streaming down my face, fueled by betrayal and bitter disappointment. Then a fierce resolve hardened within me. I would change. I would become a bad girl. No more being a doormat, a licking dog chasing after scraps of affection. I swear I only allowed myself one night of utter recklessness, and that one night led me straight to Julian Vance. Julian had just been dumped. We were two miserable souls united by shared heartbreak. His childhood sweetheart, Serafina, felt suffocated by Julian's intense, all-consuming love. She was young, she wanted a few years of freedom of being single. So she had casually dropped the bombshell. Your love is too much, it's scary. I need space. A unilateral breakup, followed by her vanishing completely. Julian was blackout drunk, clinging to a lamppost, vomiting. I had downed a case of beer and was doing much the same, hugging a different lamppost further down the street. Fate, in its twisted wisdom, decided we should meet. Serafina, he mumbled, clinging to me, his voice thick with drunken tenderness. Scumbag, I roared back, kicking and hitting him. Julian, in his stupor, was utterly submissive. Right, it's all my fault. Don't use your hands, you'll hurt them. Serafina, I know I messed up, I swear I'll change. Don't leave me, please. I want to marry you. My brain, swimming in alcohol, misinterpreted Serafina as Shinran, my own name spoken softly. I'm Shinran, soft-hearted Shinran, and I was soft-hearted enough or drunk enough to pity this equally pathetic stranger. I have no idea how two completely intoxicated people manage to find their way to a hotel, check in using our IDs, and spend a passionate night together. All I know is that when dawn broke, my hand was resting on Julian's back, and I mumbled sleepily, "Brandon, let's get married." Julian responded, "Whatever you say, Serafina." A chill ran down my spine, instantly evaporating the lingering alcohol from my pores. Julian and I scrambled out of bed, staring at each other wide-eyed with shock. He muttered a low curse. "Shit!" I yelled back. "What the hell?" An irrelevant phrase from an old movie flashed in my mind. "It's a mess. The whole damn place is a complete and utter mess." I glanced around the room. Clothes were strewn everywhere. The only organized items were my bra and his boxers, neatly folded together. A ridiculous symbol of our sudden, unexpected intimacy. Shock gave way to a frantic scramble for clothes. My eyes, despite the panic, lingered on Julian's physique for a moment. Chest, abs, a hint of a V-line. Definitely drool-worthy. Brandon had a good body too, but whenever things got heated, he'd suddenly become incredibly virtuous, making me feel like a pervert trying to force myself on an innocent. I didn't know this man's name, only that he was a Mr. Xia. Once dressed, Julian's expression became cool, distant, even a little disgusted. After a moment of awkward silence, he took out his wallet. From the corner of his ID sticking out, I saw his name, Julian Vance. He rubbed his temples, then pulled out a bank card. "Forget last night ever happened." His tone was cold, dismissive, bordering on contempt. My ridiculous pride, the same pride that had made me argue over cheap jeans, surged to the surface. I found my own bag, pulled out the cash inside, a measly pile of bills, and offered it to him. "You must be tired too. Take this to recover." Julian glanced at the crumpled wad of notes, a look of utter disdain on his face. He snorted. "Forget it then." He put his card away. I tried to mirror his cold sneer, but it probably just looked like I was twitching. I stood at the bus stop for what felt like an eternity. Half an hour passed, but the bus I needed never came. The sun was blazing, making me squint and sweat. A sleek sports car screeched to a halt in front of me. Julian rolled down the window, his expression unreadable. "Get in," he said flatly. A free ride was a free ride. Getting in would save me another half hour under the scorching sun. But of course it was Monday and traffic was horrendous. Julian's face grew paler, his body trembling slightly. 2 hours later we finally reached my neighborhood. I stood outside the car about to ask if he was all right, when his forehead slammed against the steering wheel. The blaring horn made my 80-year-old, hard-of-hearing neighbor peer out and yell about reckless drivers. I managed to drag Julian out of the car. He was drenched in cold sweat but still conscious. "Got any sugar?" I'd never had low blood sugar, so there was no sugar in the house. Only half a leftover steamed bun from yesterday. I softened it with water and force-fed it to Julian. He rested for half an hour, a strange mix of humiliation and embarrassment coloring his face. Then silently he left. That should have been the end of an unforgettable, albeit regrettable one-night stand. A story to bury deep and never revisit. But then my period was a month and a half late. Usually I dreaded its arrival, but now the prospect of my Aunt Flo seemed incredibly appealing. Ultimately, however, I had to face the grim reality. I was pregnant. My mother would kill me. I decided I would quietly take care of it myself. My boss regretfully informed me that a major client was visiting today. As his assistant, I had to be there to serve tea and handle documents, right? I figured it wouldn't hurt to postpone my appointment by a day. Then my eye twitched. The client turned out to be none other than Julian Vance, the man from my reckless night. He recognized me. Instantly, his surprise palpable. To make matters worse, the baby, perhaps sensing its father, made me feel nauseous the moment I saw him. Julian's beautiful secretary gave me a furious look. "What kind of expression is that? Are you looking down on us?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Wretch. Wretch. The secretary's face turned completely dark. Julian's face matched hers. He grabbed my arm, pulling me aside. "Mine?" he asked, his voice low. I couldn't answer. Just then a colleague's phone rang, the cheesy ringtone providing an unexpected, dramatic soundtrack to the moment. "Oh, I say, Destiny. I was married. My mother insisted." Julian's mother insisted. Both old ladies were devout Buddhists. Terminating a pregnancy was simply too great a sin. The city's most eligible and desirable young bachelor was off the market. Everyone was asking, Who? Who was this woman capable of snagging Julian Vance? Someone apparently dug into my family history, only to find that our most notable ancestor was a Qing dynasty scholar. Before and after him, generations were simply farmers. Nothing remarkable. So what was so special about me? Nothing. Julian, despite his obvious reluctance, maintained a semblance of courtesy. But my reaction was too strong. I kept vomiting. He finally turned pale, sighed, and left me stranded. At the wedding banquet, walking away silently. Perhaps people forced together truly despise the sight of each other. I didn't hate him, but he definitely seemed annoyed by me. I channeled my misery into eating, devouring 2 chicken legs. Julian returned with a glass of water and 2 preserved plums. Very hungry? He placed the plums in my hand. Something sour might help. I stiffened, rigid with tension. Julian's lips curved into a faint smile. Don't worry. I will fulfill my duties as a husband, at least during the marriage. I caught the subtle implication. Our marriage was temporary, dissolvable at any moment. Julian offered another polite smile, turned away, and began greeting guests, no longer looking at me. My mother-in-law, Beatrice, was a kind-faced elderly woman whose greatest passion was releasing animals. The day after the wedding, she took me to participate in this sacred ritual, and, incidentally, offered some advice on catching a man. To capture a man's heart, you must first capture his stomach. I thought of Julian's life of gourmet meals. It seemed unlikely I could impress his palate. Beatrice looked pained. You must reflect on yourself 3 times a day, she instructed. Does Mr. Vance love me today? Does Mr. Vance love me today? Does Mr. Vance love me today? My answer was always no, no, no. Beatrice told me not to be discouraged and that she would pray for me daily. Then the driver dragged a large sack from the trunk, and lively little tortoises poked their heads out. Release them, daughter-in-law. You do it yourself. I hesitated. But mother, these are land tortoises. They'll die if you put them in the river. Beatrice's eyebrows shot up. She repeated, Oh, the sin, 3 times. She had been releasing animals for a year, all in vain. In the end, the tortoises were all placed in the pond in Julian's garden. Julian got off work at 10 that night. Perhaps frustrated, he was taking a walk in the garden. He stepped on a tortoise, slipped, and went flying. I witnessed his undignified sprawl from the second-floor balcony. Don't laugh, he yelled from the ground. You! I retched, unable to stop the nausea that still plagued me, triggered by stress or perhaps just the sheer absurdity of the situation. Julian lay there, silent and defeated. You're worse than if you laughed, he muttered. The fall sent Julian to the hospital. Conveniently, I had a prenatal checkup the next day, and he accompanied me, sitting in a wheelchair. Julian was already in a bad mood, but receiving a phone call while waiting turned it incandescent. When are you coming back? He asked into the phone, his voice strained. I don't know. Maybe when I get bored. A light voice replied from the other end. Julian closed his eyes, forcing patience. Can you give me a rough estimate? The voice chuckled and hung up. Julian's face was so dark I thought he might crush the phone in his hand. Just then the nurse called our name. He took a breath, composed himself, and wheeled into the room. Cold gel was spread on my abdomen. The ultrasound wand pressed down. A small blurry shadow appeared on the screen. The baby is very healthy. The heartbeat is strong. Julian frowned, staring intently at the screen, clearly bewildered. This blob? This dark thing? Is my child? He scoffed. It's ugly. He turned away, looking disgusted, but after a moment, his head swiveled back, his gaze drawn to the screen again. A faint, involuntary smile touched his lips. On the way back, I couldn't help but ask, was that Serafina? Julian gave a soft I touched my stomach, acutely aware of the bond growing between me and the life inside me. The past 2 months, living in this uncertain space, had solidified something deep within me. Can I have full custody of the child? Julian stiffened, his cool eyes slowly turning to me. Yes, he said, his tone flat, emotionless. I've already prepared the divorce agreement. We'll divorce as soon as the baby is born. My mother won't object. I'll provide generous child support. You don't need to worry. I lowered my head, a wave of complex emotions washing over me. Thank you, I whispered. Julian seemed slightly moved. It's my fault. Julian had a younger brother, Leo Vance. Beatrice gave birth to Julian at 40 and Leo at 42. If Julian was a golden child, Leo was a wild child. Even the usually gentle Beatrice's blood pressure soared at the sight of him. As for Julian, he always had to lecture Leo whenever they met. So Leo rarely came home. The vast villa was usually occupied only by me and the staff. One evening it poured rain. I was in my bedroom drawing comics when I heard a commotion downstairs. Going down, I saw a girl standing in the living room, furious, yelling at the top of her lungs. "Leo Vance, get out here." I rushed down to try and calm her. "Hello," I said, trying to sound gentle. "I'm Julian Vance's wife. Leo isn't home right now, I think." The girl crossed her arms, drenched but her fierce demeanor undiminished. "Who are you kidding? I saw him run in." "Humph. You're his sister-in-law, right? You're the 13th person who's said that. That scumbag always makes excuses." With that, she pushed past me, determined to search every room. Mrs. Davies, the housekeeper, who had already retired for the night, scrambled out of bed to help me stop the girl. Honey, please go home for now. I promise I'll make Leo apologize tomorrow." The girl had a fiery temper. Whatever Mrs. Davies said only angered her further. She shrieked, "You're all protecting him, aren't you? I will see him today." As she struggled against us, her eyes turned red with anger, her strength growing. She raised her hand high, aiming to slap me. In that critical moment, a hand clamped down on her wrist. I looked up. Julian stood there, radiating cold fury. His brow was furrowed, his eyes blazing with suppressed rage. He was intimidating, unapproachable. He had just returned, looking rushed, rainwater dripping from his hair. "Is this how your parents taught you to behave? Coming into someone else's home and raising a ruckus?" He yanked the girl away from me, pulling me into his protective sphere. "Were you being stupid? Why didn't you just hide?" His cool fingers lifted my chin. Julian surveyed me from head to toe, his gaze intense, before finally seeming satisfied and lowering his hand. "Not hurt." He took my hand and led me to a closed door. With a single powerful kick, he broke the lock. Leo, startled by the noise, was halfway out the window trying to escape. Julian yanked him back inside. "You made this mess. You clean it up." He didn't spare anyone else a glance, walking directly back to his bedroom. I stood by the door watching. Leo took several slaps from the girl. I winced, but he seemed unfazed. Shaking his head, he made a beeline for the garden. What was it with these two brothers? Why did they both retreat to the garden when they were upset? In this downpour, the tortoises were undoubtedly having a field day, happily crawling around. Sure enough, Leo slipped and tumbled like his brother. I sighed and helped Mrs. Davies carry Leo back inside. Though only 2 years apart, Leo's features looked much younger, less defined than Julian's. One was a business elite, the other a playboy. Leo had mischievous, Taohuayan peach blossom eyes that seemed to flirt constantly. Even covered in mud from his fall, he managed a hoarse chuckle, hooking my little finger with his. "Sister-in-law, why are you so gentle?" I covered his face with a towel. "Silence." "Ha ha ha, sister-in-law, you're so cute." Leo pulled off the towel, his eyes partially closed, unreadable, but his voice rising slightly at the end, a hint of flirtation. "Why are you so mean to me?" He dried his hands with the towel, then noticed the mud on my face. "You're dirty. Let me wipe it for you." He was being too casual, too forward. I instinctively backed away, stumbling into a warm, solid wall of muscle. "Julian." He smelled faintly of rain and his clothes were damp. His soft sleeve brushed my cheek. I turned my head and met Julian's calm, unreadable eyes. He had subtly positioned himself between me and Leo, a silent declaration of ownership. Leo stared at him, his eyes challenging. "I thought you were supposed to be so devoted," he taunted. "If you're bored, you can go haul steel beams at a construction site. You seem suited for it," Julian said coolly, taking my hand and leading me away, locking the door behind us, not even glancing at his exasperating brother. I saw my laptop open on his desk. The screen showed my comic, at a dramatic point where the heroine was fiercely confessing her feelings to the hero. My private escape, my silly little creation, was openly displayed. My face burned red. Julian didn't seem to notice my embarrassment. He simply warned me, "Stay away from Leo. He's always liked competing with me, ever since he was a kid," he added, his meaning clear. Even though he always loses, of course. Oh, I see, I said, climbing into my own bed. Julian, frowning slightly, handed me a glass of milk. Drink this before you sleep. We slept in separate beds. Julian, with his heart belonging to someone else, naturally maintained a chaste distance. I felt a pang of sadness. We were married, yet I had never experienced love with him. A sense of guilt also lingered. I occupied a position that belonged to another woman, even if she didn't seem to want it. Just as I was drifting off, Julian's voice cut through the darkness. You really like drawing comics? Yes. Quit my old job. It was too boring at home, I mumbled, ears straining for his next words. He seemed to get out of bed, gently tucking the blanket around me. Sleep. You've had a long day. Perhaps it was Julian's doing, but the next day a studio called and offered me an interview. Though it was just for an assistant position, I was excited. My dream had always been to create comics that moved people. But I quickly fell back into my old habits. My name is Shinran, soft-hearted. And I was naturally timid and easily taken advantage of, perfectly living up to my name. My mother often said she should have named me Spicy. People who got to know me quickly realized I couldn't say no, I couldn't bear to refuse. Seeing someone's disappointed face made me feel guilty. Within a week, I had devolved from assistant to unofficial errand runner. Xiaolin asked me to buy coffee, Xiaosong asked me to order takeout. Xiaozhong said he couldn't finish inking and asked for my help. The worst part? They took what they needed, said a perfunctory thanks, and left without mentioning payment. As for Xiaozhong, helping him ink meant I couldn't finish my own coloring. Just stay late then, he'd said casually. You don't nap anyway. A voice inside me screamed to refuse, but I couldn't find the courage to speak the words. Perhaps it was because I felt I had no friends, no one to turn to. Just someone ordinary disappearing into the background. I was so terrified of being the one person excluded from the group. It was probably just insecurity. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll do it later. Rubbing my aching back, Xiaolin and Xiaosong approached me, looking secretive and gossipy. Shinran, Xiaolin whispered conspiratorially. I saw your health report. It says you're pregnant? I froze for a moment. It was the truth. I could only nod. Xiaolin's eyes were wide with curiosity. Who's the baby's father? We've never seen anyone pick you up. This put me in a difficult spot. Julian likely didn't want anyone knowing about our marriage. I stayed silent. Xiaosong chimed in, her voice loud enough to attract everyone's attention. You're not unmarried and pregnant, are you? Oh my God, who is it? So irresponsible. Heat rushed to my face. I buried my head in my desk, pulling on Xiaosong's arm, trying to get her to lower her voice. But she and Xiaolin patted my back, adopting righteous expressions. It's okay. Single mothers are great. It's all the man's fault. Yeah, but have you bought an apartment? It'll be hard for the kid to go to school around here otherwise. You're having it tough. I see you only eat from the cafeteria every day. Are you having financial problems? My eyes stung. For a moment, I felt they were deliberately trying to make me feel small, to humiliate me. Don't even know who the father is, so shameless. The words echoed in my mind, a constant, stinging reminder of my precarious reality. My head was buzzing, but I forced myself to speak. My husband is busy with work. He doesn't have time to pick me up. It's not what you think. Xiaolin looked at me with a look that said, don't bother trying to explain. We know. Don't pretend. Just then, before she could say anything more, a smooth, pleasant male voice cut through the office silence. I could almost picture Julian's lips curving into a smirk, that hint of arrogance and disdain in his eyes. Yes, I am busy with work. Do you have a problem with that? In that moment, he was like a god descending from heaven. I stood there, stunned, until Julian placed the thermos in front of me, snapping me back to reality. He leaned down, his forehead touching mine gently. Crying already? I've been too busy lately and neglected you, haven't I? Here I am, making amends. Julian sat beside me. The aroma of lotus leaf chicken soup filled the office. Complete silence fell over my colleagues. All you could hear was the sound of me, red-faced, slowly sipping the soup. I don't have work this afternoon. I'll come pick you up. We'll go shopping for the baby. After Julian left, Xiaolin was the first to speak. Julian Vance is your husband? Oh my God, I must be dreaming. This is like a romance novel coming to life. I felt like I was dreaming too. I had to stay grounded. But Julian's small act of kindness, born perhaps of pity, was enough to make me fall. I knew perfectly well he didn't love me. His heart belonged to Serafina Vance. "Didn't your manager know I arranged for you to be here?" he asked later, his voice low. I shook my head. Julian scoffed. "A department full of fools. Bullying my person without even knowing who they were." I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. "You don't have to be this good to me. You didn't need to show up today." The air grew heavy with silence. After a long pause, Julian finally spoke. "I don't dislike you, Shinran." His gaze was steady, searching mine. "So, I couldn't stand by and watch you be bullied. If a person has never experienced something, they won't know the heartbreak of losing it." I had never expected kindness like this from him. Julian Vance didn't love me today either. But our relationship had undeniably deepened. Leo Vance had been staying at the villa recently. With the warm weather, he'd wander around the living room shirtless all day. Seeing me, he'd flash a wide grin, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. "Hey there, sister-in-law Shinran." "Hello, Leo." Someone needed to rein him in. Was he an exhibitionist? "Leo," I ventured, trying to sound casual, "could you please put on a shirt? We have young female staff working here." Leo's eyes curved into a smile. His lips were red from eating ice cream. "Really? I thought they liked it." How shameless could one person be? I was stunned into silence, quickly gathered my things and left for work. Leo called after me. "Sister-in-law, aren't you worried at all? Serafina is coming back soon, you know." My body froze involuntarily. Leo saw it, his smile turning slightly malicious. "What are you going to do then?" A pair of hands rested on my shoulders. That cunning, slightly childish face leaned close. "Are you going to cry?" I ignored him, walking quickly out the door. But my heart hammered. Yes, what was I going to do? One problem wasn't enough. My scumbag ex-boyfriend Brandon decided to blackmail me. He sent me photos we had taken when we were together. "Give me money," his text read, "or I'll send these to your husband." Honestly, there was nothing scandalous in the photos. Brandon was just a scumbag after money. The most intimate thing we did was kiss a few times. But looking at those pictures now, they just felt disgusting. I didn't want to ruin the fragile image I had in Julian's eyes. My fingers trembled as I typed a reply. "How much do you want?" Brandon didn't hesitate. 10,000. "Are you robbing me? Where am I supposed to get that much?" "Heh." Brandon laughed in his text. "Don't pretend. You married a rich husband. You have money. Tonight at 7 at your place." He meant the apartment I had rented in the suburbs. The lease wasn't up, so I hadn't canceled it. I had thought if I divorced I could always move back there. I texted Julian that I would be working late tonight. I checked my savings. Less than 5 figures. Julian had given me a card with money on it, but I hadn't touched it. I wanted our relationship, temporary as it was, to be pure. To be based on something other than money. At 7 sharp, I was at the door of my old apartment. Brandon's face was hidden in the shadows. Seeing me, he jumped out. "Where's the money?" "Give me the photos first." "Heh," Brandon chuckled again. "You give me the money, and I'll naturally give you the photos. Didn't expect a country bumpkin like you could snag a rich sugar daddy. I really underestimated you." I clutched the bank card in my hand. It only had 10,000 on it. But I planned to destroy the photos as soon as he gave them to me, before he could verify the amount at the bank. "Here, give me the photos." Brandon took the card, pocketing it. He reached out to touch my face. "Don't be in such a rush. Let's catch up." How could I have ever liked this? This thing. He repulsed me. "Get away." My reaction angered Brandon. He raised his hand viciously, ready to hit me. The next second, he was kicked to the ground. "Who the hell are you?" Brandon yelled, scrambling up. "Her husband. You've got some nerve. Bullying my wife right in front of me." The figure lunged forward, raining punches on Brandon. "Give me the photos. Go ask around on the street who I am. If I ever see you bothering Shinran again, don't blame me for breaking you." This Julian was a stranger, fierce, ruthless. After he finished with Brandon, he stood there, silent, seemingly waiting for me to approach. "Are you all right, Julian?" The light was dim, I couldn't see his face clearly, but the scent felt different. "If you still can't tell, I'll be truly hurt, sister-in-law." I paused, then realized. "It's you, Leo." Disappointed. Leo's voice was cold, almost biting. Julian would never have bothered. If it wasn't for me, you'd be in deep trouble. He crossed his arms, crushed Brandon's phone under his heel, then looked at me with glittering eyes. Aren't you going to buy me dinner, sister-in-law? I suspected he had an ulterior motive, but he had genuinely helped me. What do you want to eat? I asked sincerely. A street food stall. I had expected something light like Julian. These brothers truly were polar opposites. Leo ordered a feast, biting open a beer bottle with his teeth and chugging half of it. A big burp and a flush crept up his cheeks. He was full of youthful exuberance, captivating to watch. He played with the beer bottle, slowly chewing a piece of beef, lost in thought. After a while, the spicy hot pot arrived. Leo picked up a piece of duck blood and placed it in my bowl. Serafina liked this too. We used to be close. But she only ever loved Julian. That distant, hypocritical Julian. I stayed silent. I didn't know why he was telling me this, but my eyes felt warm. The food was spicy. I told myself it was just the chili. I feel sorry for you. Julian doesn't like you. He's just avoiding responsibility. He hurt Serafina. I wasn't sure how to respond, but I softly defended Julian. But ultimately, it wasn't all Julian's fault. If Serafina hadn't just left without a word. Leo looked at me surprised. Can't you ever think about yourself? I twisted my fingers together. Julian promised me custody of the child. And a lot of money. But money couldn't fix everything. Some wounds were invisible, deep in the heart. I swallowed back my tears, refusing to let them fall. You eat. I'm going. Shinran was still the same ordinary Shinran, overlooked and unloved. Julian loved Serafina. Leo would champion Serafina's cause. I might hate Julian, but I don't want to see Serafina hurt. And you? Well, you know your place. Leo was about to say something more, but the words seemed to catch in his throat. Are you crying? No. I pulled away from his outstretched hand. I know all of you look down on me, but I have my pride too. I won't cling to Serafina's position. I'll leave. My only connection to Julian was this unborn child. Once the baby was born, Julian's responsibility would end. He would reunite with Serafina, becoming the envied couple everyone expected. Only I would be left with the profound sadness. When I got back to the villa, Julian was waiting at the door. I kept my head down, only seeing the tips of his shoes. Where were you? His voice was cold. Working late. I checked your company. You left hours ago. He must have been truly angry. His voice was louder than usual. Do you even see me as your husband? Why do you hide everything from me? I countered. Isn't our relationship only supposed to last 10 months? A long silence stretched between us. Uneasy, I looked up. Julian was clutching his chest, his face deathly pale, clearly furious. Yes, he said, his voice strained. You're right. Our relationship is only 10 months. He turned away, his steps faltering. He had to lean on the wall to walk. But then he stumbled forward, collapsing heavily to his knees. Didn't you eat? You have low blood sugar. Why didn't you eat? I cried, rushing to him. Julian gripped my arm, stubborn, defiant. Why do you care? We're just together for 10 months anyway. I fell silent again, but I helped him back into the house. On the table there was a cake. Someone had made it by hand. It was a simple shape, the frosting uneven, ugly. Julian smiled faintly. Want a slice? My throat tightened. If I spoke, I felt I might break down completely. Thank you. I've never had a cake for my solar birthday before. I found a piece of candy and put it in Julian's mouth. He held my hand, his eyes suddenly soft, like clear spring water. I told you. I don't dislike you. The unspoken meaning hung in the air. I'm willing to try to accept you. Can you tell me where you went now? Just walked around. Julian watched my eyes darting around but didn't press. Next time I'll go with you. It's not safe for a pregnant woman to wander alone. Leo chose that moment to return. Julian and I were sitting side by side. Leo saw the tenderness in Julian's eyes. But as soon as Julian saw Leo, his expression hardened, becoming cold again. You're finally settling down, Leo said, his voice cutting. He glanced pointedly at me, then at Julian. Got time to study at the company now instead of chasing women? Leo retaliated, looking at me first, then at Julian. You're one to talk about chasing women. Look who's been playing around outside and got someone pregnant. You. Julian bristled. I pulled on Julian's arm. Okay, that's enough. I knew Leo was speaking for Serafina. Leo didn't go to sleep until late. He sat in the small garden, lighting a cigarette, a silent, solitary figure. Actually, I don't understand, I said, joining him. If Julian and I had stayed together, wouldn't you have had a chance with Serafina? Leo looked at me, his smile tinged with weariness and fondness. I didn't want to see her hurt. And did she ever consider that leaving so suddenly would hurt Julian? Leo was silent for a moment. I met Julian the day he was drinking by the road, so pathetic, I continued. Love isn't an excuse to carelessly hurt someone else. No one is born to be the loser. His brow furrowed, his serious expression briefly echoing Julian's, making me momentarily confused. Do you think Julian can forget Serafina? I don't know. Leo turned his head and smiled, his previous flippancy returning. Did you come down just to tell me that? I came down to remind you that it's autumn now, and the nights are cold. Go inside before you catch a cold. Okay. Leo smiled again, back to his usual casual self. You're so kind, sister-in-law. If things don't work out with Julian someday, you can consider me. His words startled me. I quickly hurried back inside. Did I wake you? Julian's voice came from the other bed. No. Why do you care about him? Let him freeze. I got into bed, pulling the covers up. The distance between our beds seemed to have shrunk slightly. Julian, you're not honest. You clearly care about him. Shinran, Julian's voice was soft. How did you figure that out? If you weren't worried, why aren't you asleep? Julian sighed. I'm worried about you. He's just incidental. He muttered something under his breath. Leo's always been determined to surpass me, ever since he was a kid. I heard myself laugh softly in the darkness. Was Serafina too? Yes. Do you miss her? No. You're terrible at lying. Julian suddenly sat up. I'm not lying. I never lie. He was too close. Perhaps the strange connection of blood made the little one inside me restless. The baby kicked. Julian seemed to feel the movement, gasping in surprise. He kicked you? Yes. Julian placed his hand on my belly. It was almost 6 months now, visibly rounded. He lowered his head, listening to the soft thumping heartbeat. It's amazing. Julian pressed his head against my belly, tracing circles on it with his fingers, a goofy smile on his face. Hello, baby. I'm Daddy. This is Mommy. We love you so much. You have to grow up strong and healthy and meet us on time. He moved. He responded. Julian looked up, his eyes wide with wonder, a look of sheer joy on his face. He suddenly pinched my cheek, then froze, surprised by his own gesture. We're doing the 4D ultrasound tomorrow. I'll go with you. I was too flustered to speak. Julian pinched my cheek again, a playful command. Snap out of it. Okay. I whispered, my voice trembling. Good girl. Julian patted my head, his gesture so natural, so intimate. Go to sleep now, baby's mother. I woke up in Julian's arms. His strong arms were wrapped tightly around me. Seeing me stir, he opened his eyes. It's still early. Sleep a little longer. My face was burning, but I didn't want this rare moment of closeness to end. I closed my eyes again and drifted back to sleep. I finally woke when Julian called my name. It was nearly noon. My arm's numb, he complained, his voice slightly muffled. The culprit needs to rub it. How? How did you get into my bed? I stammered. I don't know. Maybe I was half asleep. Julian urged me. Come on, get up and eat. We're going to the hospital this afternoon. Leo wasn't at the breakfast table. Mrs. Davies said he had a bad cold and couldn't get up. Leaving the hospital after the ultrasound, Julian insisted on taking me to see a good show. He drove to a location where police were apprehending a group of local thugs. Leading the group was my pathetic ex-boyfriend, Brandon Hayes. Julian placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice low and serious. How did you ever get involved with trash like that? I actually thought about it for a moment. A year ago, I was still at my old job, finishing a report for a colleague. It was almost 10 o'clock when I left. It happened to be pouring rain and I missed the last bus. Brandon appeared then on his motorcycle, asking if I needed a ride home. The spark of attraction was sudden. I pursued him first. His response was a lie. He sweet-talked me, wanting my savings. Looking back, how could I have been so blind? Anyone with clear eyes could have seen the disdain in his. But I was too lonely. Julian waved a hand in front of my face. Snap out of it. What are you going to do with him? Julian scoffed. It's not about me dealing with him. He's been extorting and defrauding people. He's a parasite on society. I felt the fire in Julian's eyes. As he said this, his meaning clearly aimed at Brandon's past actions towards me. He couldn't keep his hands to himself, so he deserves to be punished. At the detention center, Brandon saw me with Julian. He grabbed the bars, screaming desperately, Shinran, I was wrong. Let me go. I swear I'll never do it again. He then apologized to Julian, who grabbed his arm and yanked it away from the bars. Don't touch me. You're disgusting. This isn't about me holding a grudge. Look at what you've done yourself. I gripped Julian's sleeve nervously. He looked down at me, his anger softening slightly. Shinran, this man was seeing other women while he was with you. He took your money to spend on others, and now that you're doing well, he tried to extort you. Trash like that isn't worth pitying. You knew. Julian sighed. Yes, I knew. He gently stroked my head, a comforting gesture that helped my tense body relax. You could have told me. You're not alone anymore. You have backup. You have me. He pulled me into his embrace. The sad, the joyful, the angry, the upset. You can tell me everything. I know a lot of things, Shinran. You were bullied at work. The comic you're working on is loved by many people. You're going to be a rising star. You're not the superficial person I thought you were. You're just soft-hearted, kind Shinran. You can try to trust me. Are you getting revenge for me? Yes. I couldn't stand to see you, this punching bag, taking hits. You work so hard, how can everyone bully you? I won't allow it. It was terrible. Wonderful. I knew in that moment, I had fallen deeply in love with Mr. Vance. So, did Mr. Vance love me today? I still didn't know for sure. Leo's cold hadn't gotten better. He refused medicine, sitting by the window every day, letting the draft blow on him. I couldn't stand it. I made him cola ginger tea and millet porridge. Don't want it. Leo sat on the window seat, looking like a proud, sulking wolf. Who are you mad at? His back moved slightly and he finally got down from the window. I'm not mad at anyone. Then why won't you take your medicine? Leo's eyes were clear amber. Even with a face of sharp angles, those eyes made him look like a boy. I just feel like I'm terrible. How could I have caused you trouble? It wasn't your fault. I handed him the bowl of porridge. If you feel bad, eat this. Then I'll forgive you. Leo smiled faintly. That's how you trick kids. You are a kid. I'm 26. I'm 2 years older than you. Our argument was the truly childish thing. Leo stopped arguing and took a big gulp of porridge. The brief interaction seemed to open Leo up. He set the bowl down and began speaking slowly. I always envied Julian growing up. He was good at everything. Polite, smart, all the adults' attention was on him. And I was always overlooked. But I wanted attention too. Maybe I tried too hard. Later, I did get attention. But everyone just called me Julian's useless younger brother. As for Julian, they used every word of praise imaginable. Later I thought, fine, I won't compete anymore. But then I liked someone. And Julian had to like her too. He was always one step ahead. The day he confessed to Serafina, I watched them kiss under the grapevine. I hid behind the rock garden and felt like a complete idiot. It sounded genuinely heartbreaking. I couldn't help but reach out and ruffle Leo's hair. It was a comforting gesture, and Leo's expression softened. He finished the ginger tea quickly. Ginger tea makes you sweat. I pulled Leo back to his bed and tucked him in tightly. Why are you being so nice to me? He mumbled from under the covers. You're my little brother, I said, smoothing his blanket. You need extra care. I touched his forehead. No fever. Let the unpleasant things stay in the past. You can compete with Julian starting tomorrow. Why wallow like this? Serafina and Julian aren't back together yet. You still have a chance. Don't be so pessimistic. What about you? You're in the most precarious position, aren't you? I lowered my eyes, unsure how to answer. Let's worry about that when the day comes. That day came sooner than expected. My pregnancy was 8 months along, and I had taken leave from work. Julian had been craving my dumplings all morning, and I promised to bring some to his office at lunchtime. Leo, since our talk, seemed to have had an epiphany. He'd opened his own studio, looking every bit the reformed young man. Today was his day off, and he offered to drive me to Julian's office. Everyone in the office fell silent and averted their gaze when I arrived, looking guilty. Whispers and muffled sobs came from Julian's office. Through the blinds, I saw a girl, Serafina, sitting on his desk wiping away tears. Julian was leaning close, saying something softly. She looked up and leaned towards him. A hand covered my eyes, but tears, uncontrollable, slid down my face. Don't look. Did they kiss? I didn't know for sure. I was fundamentally a timid person, easily frightened, but recalling Julian's almost frantic enthusiasm for turning our house into a baby supplies store, I felt a terrifying certainty that he would never give up custody. I ran. I left with the ball. I couldn't have done it alone. Leo helped me. Whatever you need, contact me. I'll handle it. Sitting in the car headed for another city, gratitude overflowing, I squeezed Leo's hand. Thank you so much. I don't know how I can ever repay you. Leo smiled, that familiar, slightly flippant smile. If you really want to thank me, tell the kid I'm his father. Silence. I lost to him again, didn't I? Leo closed the car door. Go quickly before they find out. He reached through the window and gently touched my face in farewell. I suppose I had witnessed Leo's journey from arrogant flippancy to a kind of maturity. But the man in my heart was always Julian. 4 years flew by. I went from being an unknown artist to a fairly well-known cartoonist. I raised my daughter on my own. Little Daisy, her full name was Julian Vance. It was Friday evening. Little Daisy had hauled in a huge box of deliveries and was happily opening them on her bed. Mommy, is Uncle Leo really not my daddy? Why does he always buy me so many things? My inking hand trembled. I remembered what Leo had told me on the phone. Julian was married and expecting another child soon. I looked at Daisy. All these years I hadn't told her who her father was. Only Leo kept calling, sending gifts. Little Daisy, craving a father figure, naturally assumed kind, thoughtful Uncle Leo, whom she'd never met in person, was her dad. No, Little Daisy. Uncle Leo is just Mommy's good friend. Oh. Little Daisy dragged the word out. Then why don't you just marry him, Mommy? Then I'll have a daddy. Little Daisy, if you talk nonsense again, I'll make you copy your lessons. Little Daisy pouted. Humph. Mommy's just being stubborn. I couldn't help but tap her head gently. Little Daisy rubbed her head, whimpering. But it's true. Why else would I be surnamed Vance? There was a faint sound outside the door. I opened it but saw nothing. The next day, I waited outside Little Daisy's school until it was dark, but she didn't appear. Bad premonitions swirling, my heart clenched with fear. The teacher said her father had picked her up. My heart leaped into my throat. My fingers trembled as I reached for the police number. A sudden car horn blared, startling me, and I dropped my phone. Looking up, I saw Julian sitting in a car. Little Daisy was in the back seat, tapping on the window, excitedly calling for Mommy, overjoyed as if it were New Year's Day. Get in, Julian said. 4 years later, Julian was still the same Julian, cool, noble, perhaps a little more tired around the eyes. Long time no see. Nothing to say. I twisted the hem of my dress. How have you been? I heard. You got married. Julian's hand on the steering wheel tightened. Then he roared, full of sudden rage. Who told you I got married? We're not divorced yet, did you forget? Ah, that's why he was here. I'll go with you to get the divorce certificate tomorrow. Julian pulled the car over sharply to the side of the road. After all this time, I've been looking for you for 4 years. And the first thing you do when you see me is try to make me furious. His tone was so fierce Little Daisy balled up her fists and punched him playfully a few times. Don't bully Mommy. Julian, tall and strong, barely felt it. With a long reach, he pulled her onto his lap. Julian stroked Little Daisy's eyebrows and eyes, a soft smile slowly spreading across his face. She looks like you. Round eyes. He pinched her cheek, his voice filled with obvious delight. Call me Daddy. Little Daisy huffed. You're not my daddy. Uncle Leo is my daddy. Leo. Julian gritted his teeth, turning to me. Is that what you told her? I instinctively shrunk back, my stomach rumbling inopportunely. Hungry. Julian touched my head gently. Let's go eat. He held Little Daisy. What do you want? Crab roe noodles. At the dinner table, little Daisy ate messily, sauce all over her face. Julian watched her with tender eyes. Does Uncle Leo take you for crab roe noodles? He seriously instructed her. Remember, I am your father. We're going home tomorrow. My hand holding the chopsticks froze. Home? But what about Serafina? Serafina and I broke up a long time ago. Ah, then, Leo. Julian wiped little Daisy's face, not looking up. I knew that kid was talking nonsense. Serafina and I clarified everything the last time she came back. He looked up, his gaze intense. Why did you leave me? There was no point in hiding it now. I saw you and Serafina kissing in the office. Oh. Julian was silent. You really saw? I pushed her away, he said, his voice low. Did you just see the beginning and run? And then, letting your insecurity get the better of you, hide for 4 years. He sighed. Leo helped you, didn't he? He's never beaten me at anything, and he made me stumble so badly where it mattered most with you. Little Daisy was falling asleep. Julian carried her. We weren't far from my place, we decided to walk. Julian reached out a hand, hooking my pinky finger, then interlacing our fingers tightly. Come home with me. I didn't know how to answer. I should have been overjoyed. I loved Julian, didn't I? Motorcycles roared past, their noise making. Little Daisy frowned even in her sleep. Julian and I switched places. I held Daisy, walking on the inside away from the traffic. Why don't you want to come back? I thought about it. It was probably pride. We have a child now. Why think about all that complicated stuff? Let's just make it work. It's not like we can divorce now, is it? Julian laughed softly. I chased you all the way here. Just give me a chance. Come back with me. Otherwise, Leo will definitely die laughing at me. He put an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. Anyway, I fell for you. Did Mr. Vance love me today? Yes, he loved me. Perhaps he had felt something much earlier, lurking anonymously in comment sections, secretly following my life. And me? That day I left for years ago. Did I have no regrets? Leo, I had said to him on the verge of leaving, please keep mentioning me to Julian. I wanted him to remember me. I wanted his longing for me to be like an endless river. And eventually, through the subtle clues I left behind, I wanted him to find me. For all the yearning, all the pain of separation, to dissolve in that single moment of joyous discovery. For nothing to remain but the overwhelming relief and happiness. I finally found you. I leaned my head on Julian's shoulder. Me too. I fell for you. The end.